Hello and welcome to the tutorial to set up your Revit model to Etabs. Ensure that you're using the right Revit template prior to beginning. Let's take a quick look at the work sets that are in the model. You're going to place beams, braces, and columns on specific work sets to filter out geometry that you do not want exported. Let's start with the steel beams. The engineer and the BIM designer need to collaborate about what steel members will be assigned to each workset. Miscellaneous steel should not be put on the beams workset. Here are a couple examples of miscellaneous steel: HSS wind girts, elevator rails, curved steel members, steel stair framing, and steel angles. It's important to note that when modeling the primary steel beams, ensure that the beams workset at the bottom of your screen is selected. When modeling your horizontal beams parallel to the x-axis, ensure that you model them left to right. And all vertical beams parallel to the y-axis, ensure that you model them bottom to top. Make sure that the blue direction arrow is pointed to the right for all beams parallel to the x-axis, and pointed up for all beams parallel to the y-axis. The blue direction arrow indicates which direction the start and end joints are modeled, which is important for beam end reactions and connection symbols. You can also run the Dynamo script called flip beam direction arrow to ensure that all the geometry is modeled correctly. I'm going to reverse the beam direction arrow of a couple of beams. Let's open up Dynamo and run the flip beam direction arrow script. Make sure that the Dynamo script is in the project folder where your Revit model is. Click the Run button on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. Notice that the blue direction arrow has reversed. Go into the visibility graphics and turn on generic models. Then turn on thin lines by typing in TL on your keyboard. Notice that a generic model has been created to show the joints at the end of each beam. You must check the nodes at the end of the generic model and extend the beams that appear disconnected. After each floor is modeled, run the flip beam direction arrow Dynamo script to view if any of the beam geometry is not connected. This will require you to put the beams on the beams workset one level at a time initially to ensure that there are no discontinuities between your geometry. A generic model will be created for you to identify any discontinuities between your geometry. After the geometry has been fixed, place your beams on a temporary workset and move up to the next level and repeat the process. Make sure that your beams are associated to the correct level in your model. For example, take a look at the reference level of this beam on the second floor. This beam is associated to level 2. If this beam is going to have moment connections, make sure that the start and end connection symbols are changed within the Revit model. In the Properties dialog box, change the start connection to moment frame and the end connection to moment frame. After your beam framing has been modeled correctly, take a look at the 3D view in your model to make sure that all the beams that you want exported are on the beam workset. Go into the visibility graphics and turn off all the worksets except for the beams workset. These are the beams that will be exported out of the Revit model using Dynamo.